Hey, folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here, and welcome to another episode of the Tic Toc Diner. As you've probably seen, we do not have the man that built the pyramids with us today. I got to say, my co-host, Jeff, has... not only is he down in Orlando enjoying some time with some of his coworkers, but he is also stepping away from the Freight Fraud Task Force. Now, he's been extremely busy this year. His own logistics company has grown an immense amount since the start of the year, so he's had to pull back a little bit so he can put some attention on his business. However, he is staying with the Freight Fraud Summit. He will continue his chairmanship of that organization, though the summit itself has been moved from May to October, and we should have an exact date sometime soon. And I know, we got F3 coming up in October. We've got another broker carrier summit in October, both of those late in the month. So I am kind of pushing Jeff to make sure that the task force summit's going to be early in October, but we'll see how that plays out. In the meantime, I'm sitting in the kitchen solo today, and I've got a couple good friends with me. We've got Sage from Sage Outcast hanging out with us. How you doing today, Sage?
Hey, what's going on, brother? What's going on? Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you out here, man. You're always bring some interesting conversation anytime I've got you in as a guest, and I'm planning on bringing you in more often when I can. We also have our good friend from the Freight Fraud Task Force, Jennie-In-A-Bottle. Jen Chrestman, how you doing, Jen?
Good. How are you?
All right. Hope you guys have been having an easy week so far. I know mine has been anything but easy. Yeah, I got to say, we have been seeing this across the industry for years. The exponential growth of fraud and theft is just gone insane. But I'm very happy to report that whenever we have a success in trying to deal with a theft, that I just love talking about it. Last week, I had a veteran from the Army reach out to me. He's stationed in Hawaii, and his Harley Davidson Softail went missing. You know, that's a nice little bike. And you know, back when I used to ride, granted, I was never a big fan of Harleys myself, but they are still pretty bikes. And so I was determined to try to help this guy as best I can. We actually found the bike at a residence in Sacramento, California. And we got the highway patrol involved. We got warrants issued, and we were able to recover the bike from the garage of that residence. And it is now on a ship out of Southern California on its way to Hawaii for our brave veteran who wanted to have his bike while he's out in Hawaii. So I'm so glad that we were able to recover that for him. So yay, I love talking about successes. And we've seen a lot of successes coming up in the news. There was a $1 million Lego heist that got stopped. You know, we know of another copper load that got rescued earlier this week. The bad guys are trying, but we are seeing success in trying to recover these loads, especially when they're in shipment. So the lesson for shippers out there right now, please make sure if you do not put trackers in your cargo, do so. Number one. Number two, make sure that when you go to release cargo, you know who it is you're releasing it to. Is it the name of the carrier on your BOL? Is the driver the right name? Check this stuff, folks. It will save you in the long run. And my allergies are killing me, in case you can't tell.
Nice.
You know, I was as I sit here, I go chasing after crooks and thieves. They're slowing me down these last couple of weeks, and they're slowing me down because every step they make kicks up a bright yellow cloud everywhere they go, and I'm running in a damn yellow cloud. It's driving me insane. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I've got about an inch worth of pollen sitting on top of my car. Ugh, it's crazy out there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our discussion for today. One of the reasons why we have Sage here, most of you who know Sage know that he is a freight broker, deals a lot with flatbeds, oversized, etc. throughout his career. But he is also in insurance, and that is one interesting combination. Sage, why did you try to get into insurance as a freight broker?
Well, basically, I signed up to go to hell directly. So there's no way I can go to heaven at that point as a freight broker and an insurance agent. So basically, what happened
May
was,
God have mercy on your soul.
I know, right? I'm never going to get there. So basically, what happened is, as a freight broker, I specialize in overdimensional freight. So as freight kind of slowed down, I had a buddy of mine basically reach out and say, "Hey, would you be interested in coming over here and selling insurance? We're looking for somebody who knows trucking because they were a trucking insurance firm." And I'm like, well, let me give it a shot. Let me see if I can pass the test. And I did. I ended up taking it to, study like 2 weeks and ended up passing the test. It was like a state test. And then got that and learned quite a bit over there. And then recently moved on to another company where we are doing something even better with insurance. We're actually providing more value to insurance than normal. So we're mixing compliance, data queues, all that type of stuff that a carrier needs nowadays to get that safety score in a better situation so that they can get a better insurance rate. So with the insurance aspect that I'm doing now, where I'm also working with Jenny to help with compliance, was as we take a look and we meet with you, we take a look at your compliance. I run a program called CAB, which is what underwriters look at. And then we go over everything and try to put together the best package and then I sell that package to an underwriter. I present that to an underwriter so that I can, try to get you your best rate. My goal, or our goal, and this is a fairly large insurance company that I'm working with, that basically I'm their trucking person. Like they do workman's comp, they do health, they do everything else. But I'm handling the trucking, and I've got my boss does, and then somebody that handles the accounts under me. And basically, our goal is to say, hey, look, safety is a big factor right now. It's not just the foreign drivers and the non-domiciles. Brokerages are now looking at everybody's safety score because we get these stories in the paper of nuclear verdicts and stuff. And we see a lot that basically say, hey, we want safer drivers, right? And you want brokers to be held accountable. Hold the brokers accountable. Perfect. Let's do that. Well, the issue with that is that if you're going to start holding brokers accountable, we're going to start looking at your safety scores. We're going to start looking at your addresses. We're going to start looking at this stuff and saying, hey, you're not safe. I can't use you. So that's going to become a big factor really soon in regards to safety and things like that. So our goal, like I said, before I got on a sidetrack, is if I can bring you a better safety score through an outside compliance, if we can do that, and then I can present you to an underwriter to get your insurance down to the best cost I can, you can grow your company more, which means I grow with you. Right? There's no need for me to hit you with high insurance and then you're in business for 1 year. My goal is to basically make it where we are helping you get the best insurance possible, stay safe, which gets you into better areas of freight, right? And then that way you can stay profitable and you can, continue to grow your company, basically. And as a freight broker, I want people to understand is that if I'm looking at, like I do overdimensional freight, but I also did contracted freight. So if I was looking to put a carrier under contracted freight, your safety score is important because I'm not going to take a crappy safety score and say, yeah, I'm going to take your price. Because if you go out of business or you get into a wreck or something happens because you have a bad safety score, I might lose you. And now I got to find someone else to fill that contract. So one of the factors that I look at when I looked at contracted, assigning a carrier to contracted freight was, what is your safety score? Like how important is that safety score to you? What tickets are you getting and all this other stuff? And I don't think a lot of drivers understand the importance of that with contracted freight. So that's kind of what we're doing on the insurance aspect. And I'm still moving freight. Well, my wife is handling the brokerage right now because she used to be a Landstar agent. So she's handling the brokerage right now, but I still have the freight brokerage also.
Well, you talk a lot about the safety scores and some of the things that you look at when you're trying to hire a motor carrier to work on a contract. Mm-hmm. Can you go into more depth as to what kind of violations disqualify a carrier in your eyes when you're trying to consider them for a contract?
So for me, the first thing I use is, and so shout out to, is like search carriers. Like I'll go into search carriers and I'll pull that up and I'll check to see like what your ISS scores are. Like what do you have a problem? Is it hours of service? Is it speeding? Or, what type of situations you're actually getting to. Then I check your inspections and I'll look at your inspections and see what tickets you're getting at. For me, the first thing, because I'm open deck, so a lot of the contracts I had would be flatbed open deck, was, do you have any securement problems? Are you getting tickets for securement? Because if you can't secure the freight, you're not hauling my freight, right? So that's a big one for me. And then anything that has to do with like hours of service and like reckless driving, speeding, and things like that are also the ones I'm looking at. If you're getting, I mean, I understand you could roll, you roll through a scale and you have a problem with a trailer because it's low air pressure. Okay, I get it. You should be checking the air pressure. I understand that. But the problem is are you constantly getting it? So it's not just one thing you're getting. It's, are you not fixing the problem, right? Like there have been times where I've said, hey, you got a ticket for a broken windshield 4 months ago. Yeah, I got that. That was in blah, 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 blah state. Okay, perfect. Did you fix the windshield? No. Okay, then I can't use you. I mean, you got written up for it 4 months ago and never got it fixed. That's, to me, kind of shows that you're not a kind of carrier I want. But a lot of it for me is are you getting the same tickets repetitively? Anybody can go through a scale and be like, damn, my tire was low, right? But it's fixed now. But if you're rolling through with the same VIN numbers and the same tickets, I'm not using you because you obviously can't tell there's a problem. So that's some of the stuff that I look at. And I've actually done this, I've made phone calls back in my Discord where my Discord people can hear me interview drivers. And I'm pickier though, to be honest. But then again, I'm moving, over dimensional freight, so I kind of need to be pickier.
Of course. Jenny, we know a lot about you. We know a lot about your collections company. We know that you are starting to get into compliance. How does this all fit in with you and Sage?
Well, Sage and I have been friends. We used to butt heads a lot on broker transparency. And I've come around some on that, some, not full circle, but some. And I still, I find a lot of value in what Sage has to offer, informational wise, as well as services. I do say that he does a lot more than a lot of brokers in vetting his carriers and knowing that they're good carriers. And I've learned a lot from him from the brokerage side. So, props to Sage for sticking with it and butting heads with me all this time. It takes a special person.
Well,
but
either way, go ahead.
But anyways, and so when he was really getting into this insurance thing, he actually encouraged me to get my insurance license, and I've kind of drug my feet on this. But what I find even more valuable is I've added to my menu of services on frscollects.com is the compliance and safety aspect, and that there's such a push with compliance and safety from the DOT and FMCSA right now, and then also what's in the courts, pushing back on brokers hiring safe carriers. That there are a lot of carriers out there that don't have the bandwidth to do their safety and compliance correctly. They're just getting by the skin of their teeth. And so if I can get in there and dig into what's causing their problems and noticing, hey, you've got a lot of speeding going on, or hey, you've got a lot of issues with hours of service, and I can help them be more diligent with that and help them monitor that, because a lot of smaller companies don't have room for a full-fledged chief compliance officer, so to speak. So I come in to these companies and become their fractional chief compliance officer, and they write a letter as such that says, hey, we've added this person who's got oversight over this, who is watching this for us, and that helps. We give that to Sage, and then he presents that with their package to the underwriters, and that goes a long way to speak to, hey, they've got some more oversight other than just their staff, day-to-day staff that's looking into this, that's specific for this purpose. So that gives them a little bit of a leg up, and it also, puts me in the hot seat a little bit more with those insurance companies. But, I, people that are willing to allow me to come in and be the bad guy. Sometimes there's a lot of relationships between those trucking companies and their drivers, and they don't want to, be the bad guy and say, hey, this is my money-making driver. He's running all the time, and yeah, he's bumping hours of service, but he makes my big money. Well, but that makes him fatigued and not safe, and makes him a bigger risk to insurance companies. So how do we get him running in compliance but still making the money that he is. And so having that oversight and letting them know, hey, here's what you need to do, or here's how we can help with this. And this is, you need to be mindful of this when you're dispatching him or her, that they have that oversight with me, managing that for them. I get to be the bad guy, basically.
Hey, I can respect that. When you and I first met, Jenny, we were always trying to play the good guys as best we can and help anyone who really couldn't help themselves. You dealing collections, myself dealing with fraud, and it was a team effort. To say the least, to be able to get anything done, whether we were dealing with a wrongful freight guard or anything else, it was a team effort. And I'm happy to see that you and Sage are trying to bring that team mentality together in multiple aspects to provide a complete solution. Well, as near a complete solution as you can, anyway, to a motor carrier who's trying to do the right thing and to do it at the lowest possible cost. I mean, let's face it, cost is a huge problem today. I mean, look at diesel; it's hit its second highest week on the DOE charts this week. Based on what's happening in the world today, I think we will break the record next week.
Yeah,
but we'll see how that plays out. But you both mentioned going to court, nuclear verdicts and whatnot. I imagine you have in your mind the C.H. Robinson case that's currently in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that would be Miller versus C.H. Robinson. Yep.
So how have you had the chance to see the arguments that were made in that case yet?
I have not. So that's not Miller. That's the one that they're going in regards. So what that lawsuit is about is for the longest time you have the 4F, which is an aviation part of basically stating that a freight broker is not liable because we cross state lines. So when different states have different liabilities in regards to lawsuits for traveling. Like if you were just going to stay in the state, this lawsuit might say you're this much responsible or this much responsible, or you're liable for this, you're liable for this. So in regards to trucking, because we cross state lines, it's very difficult. It would be very difficult for a freight broker to factor in risk for which state they're running through. Okay. So we basically say, hey, because they go through so many states and there's no way for the freight broker, if something were to happen in this state, there's no way for me to know what my liability status would be for that, to prepare for that or have to cover the risk for that. They basically, we fall under the 4F. I can't remember the terminology. I'm not a lawyer. The 4F, which basically says that, hey, we're not liable for that. Well, brokers have won that on every lower level, but trucking companies and people keep taking brokers to court. So C.H. Robinson basically said, hey, you know what? I want this to go to the Supreme Court. So we have a final response for that. We have a final response stating yay or nay. Now, most likely, freight brokers are going to win that in that aspect of it, because it is very difficult for me to be able to determine if I'm going from Texas to California, every state liability factor, right? Because of the states that you go through. So it's not that they're saying that, hey, they're not liable at all. Of course we are. We get sued all the time. It's just that we need to know how to determine, what our liability is on a federal level, because we do cross state lines rather than an individual state level. If we're crossing state lines, like Carmack type stuff, it doesn't fall. If you don't cross state lines, Carmack doesn't fall. You have to cross state lines for Carmack to kick in. So that's at the Supreme Court, which is it's a good thing, because we need to establish consistency, figure out where we're going with this, so that, because of the lawsuit factors of it. And there are right now, cases that are waiting for this verdict because they want to see. And the problem is if the verdict went the other way, there would be enormous amounts of lawsuits against brokers, probably putting some brokers out of the business, completely out, which most truck drivers would be like, but actually you don't want that, because you don't want a consolidation of just C.H. Robinsons and TQLs and large brokers. You do want that, that factor. But yeah, so I'm waiting for that to come down. And I think that's going to come down somewhere around July, I think, before they'll probably answer that one.
Yeah, I thought it was going to come out before their spring break or for their summer break. But it's going to be kind of curious. Now, of course, the federal government filed an amicus brief in support of the freight brokers in that case. And normally, when an amicus brief is filed by the government, the Supreme Court swings in that direction. So I think we're reasonably assured that brokers are going to get a federal acknowledgement of the level of relief from such nuclear verdicts, which is good and is bad. You mentioned before that there are times that brokers are liable in certain cases. Something that comes to my mind is when a broker makes threats against the carrier to force them to operate in an unsafe manner to deal with an expedited load. What other kinds of situations would you say a broker might be liable?
If a broker is basically, my job as a freight broker is to determine the safety and that of a carrier to make sure, like, if I were to give it to a carrier that was not authorized, did not have authority, was not, I didn't check his. A lot of times a freight broker will check the SM. I'm sorry, not the SM. They'll log into Snapshot, right? FMCSA Snapshot, and they'll check that first screen. But that first screen is not crossing state lines. You actually have, like, that first screen, you can be not eligible because you don't cross the state line. You work within the state of Texas, okay? But now I have a load that's leaving the state of Texas. I actually have to go to the licensing and authority to check to make sure that they have an MC number that is active and that doesn't say not authorized to run, because they can't cross state lines at that point. So if a freight broker is not doing a proper check to make sure that the load that they have, that could be something that a lawyer would probably jump on. Again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. But that's some of the stuff that is the job of a freight broker to check.
What about a company that is not safe and running? Like, they have a lot of violations in their SMS.
That's a fine line, because if technically that is more of a determination. So now I have to say, okay, what's the standard? Like, what's the standard of safe? Because they could have a lot of violations, but they're still active. So are they safe? You know what I mean? So that's a fight that a lawyer can be like, well, what's the line that determines them safe or unsafe? How many violations, how many this? And that's kind of open for interpretation, which is a problem. But that's open for interpretation. Now, for me, I have a line that I use. You can't be over on both. You can't have, some things that, I don't want to give it completely away. But you can't be over on both. Your driver, because I don't do hazmat, your driver and your vehicles can't be over, or I can't use you. It can only be over on one.
Oh, over, do you mean over the national average?
National average. So you can't be over the national average for me on both categories, and I can't use you. You can only be over on one, and then with the one that you're over, I have to look to see, how long ago it was. Are you getting it constantly? Repetitive stuff like that. But it's a fine line when you're picking, and I understand that I know a lot of drivers are going to say that the broker should be responsible, and a lot of carriers say that the broker should be responsible, and I agree with them to an aspect. But the problem is that I want everyone to understand the knee-jerk that reaction that would happen if that were to happen. If you're going to now make me liable for every single thing I'm going to do, well, then I'm going to have a very selective choice of carriers that I'm going to use. I might request that you have 2 million instead of 1 million. I might start to say, well, sorry, you have, unless you're in the green on both, I can't use you. I want to see your MVRs. From now on, I'm going to run your MVR. I need you to give me approval to run your MVRs. So just making brokers liable and think that nothing will change on the broker end is crazy. That's madness, right? Now, from the insurance aspect, I do believe that insurance is going to play a big role now in determining, hey, because remember that nuclear verdict starts to go to the broker, it could start to go, now you have insurance and stuff like that. Insurance aspects of that is going to start eliminating some drivers, right? How safe is your DOT? Are you? Let me log into your ELDs, right? The insurance company are going to log into your ELDs, and that's where, like I said, stuff that me and Jenny are doing are making it where we try to help you before the insurance company denies you, right? Because that's what we're running into a lot of now is people are getting audited. Go ahead.
And one thing that we're seeing a lot of also is just general compliance from the company standpoint. Like you have 20 trucks, but you're showing you have 15 trucks. Your mileage is showing that you have high narc. Mileage is showing that you have, 280,000 miles last year, but you have 10 trucks. Well, are they only running 28,000 miles apiece? I mean, if they're running pretty consistently, you're looking at about 95,000 for per truck. So if you have 10 trucks, you should be up at 950,000 and not 280,000. And so a lot of times insurance looks at that and says, well, how is this correct? They'll have them listed as owned trucks when they're leasing trucks. They don't have, the hardest thing that I'm finding when I'm working with these carriers is if you have 10 trucks, then I need 10 drivers and I need 10 trailers. Like this is not rocket science, but you would not believe how difficult this is. I found this is extremely difficult.
She was shocked. She learns stuff that brokers don't do checks. She learned carriers aren't doing their safety stuff. She's learning stuff too now that I tried to explain to her before. Carriers are out of control sometimes. And she's brought stuff to me that, she's like, because I do checks. I check my carriers. I check every single one. I check their MC. I check them. So for me, it was, I couldn't even comprehend the fact that a broker wouldn't do a check, right? That, to me, I'm like, that doesn't happen. You're crazy. Yet she brought it to me. So now I'm bringing carriers to her that she's like, oh my God, I want to shake these people. I'm like, I told you. So it's been a learning experience on both ends that, there's a problem and what the problem is, and I'll say it for both sides, is education, right? People, knowledge of the industry of the job that you're in. You own a business and you want to own a trucking company, then you should be knowledgeable about all aspects of that business, not just holding the wheel and swinging the doors, right? And insurance and compliance is a huge factor. So that's like I said. So when we're bringing people in and we're saying, okay, do you know what this is for? Do you know why this is important? Do you know why this is important? Because I'm going to, and I try to, she's doing the compliance. Jenny's getting the compliance and she's getting me the best package so that I can take that insurance information and I can present that to an underwriter. And that underwriter is going to shop it for different markets, right? Because that's kind of how this works. They're going to shop it at different markets to try to find the best deal that works for you. Might not be the cheapest, but this deal works for you because you want to you want to grow your company. Well, Progressive doesn't want you to grow your company fast. Well, this other one will. But the problem is that when I'm taking this insurance package, I have to have all the information. It has to line up. It has to look good because I then have to present it to the underwriter who has to trust me. And I'm selling that to the underwriter. So I'm kind of that middleman with the underwriter. Oh, here's a long question. Fire away.
Oh boy. Well, Trucker G is chiming in here. And I'm trying to read this whole thing out loud.
What you're describing isn't just insurance tightening up. It's the system finally starting to reconcile data across silos. Broker, insurers, and regulators have all been looking at pieces of the puzzle independently. Now they're starting to correlate ELD data, mileage reporting, DOT safety scores, claimed fleet size. When those don't line up, it's not just non-compliance anymore. It looks like risk misrepresentation. And once nuclear verdict exposure gets priced in, the tolerance for inconsistent... Oh, where's this at? Inconsistent.
It looks like it cut off. Okay. Trucker G, you're hitting all the nails on the head, and I think isn't Trucker G going on Logistics Lounge next week or something like that? I thought I heard that.
No,
he's absolutely right, and that's one of the great things about that's happening in this industry. There's now coalescing taking place in the industry. We're not all standing on the sidelines, running our own ball game. We're all actually standing on the line together and trying to get things done. And I think we're seeing improvements in the industry as a result. And you two are a living example of that. You're taking two very specific and actionable disciplines within this industry, combining together and be able to present a package to a motor carrier that's, let's face it, they learned all this off of YouTube University, and They learned it all wrong.
Yep.
It's one of the things that drives me nuts about this industry. Whether you got a college kid who hears, hey, you can make some money being a freight agent. Okay, so go be a broker agent and make some money when you're out of the classroom. Okay, cool. And then they get out of college and say, okay, I want to do this full time. But they don't know dick about this entire industry. They haven't been in the truck. They haven't been in a warehouse. They don't know what's going on. So how can you represent a customer and represent moving their freight if you don't understand what's happening within the industry? And that's what you two help to bring to them, that education.
And I think the fact that Sage and I both have over 2 decades in the industry in multiple arenas. I was a driver. I worked at a brokerage doing compliance and onboarding, as well as a track and trace, improving on-time delivery. Then I was a logistics coordinator for a Fortune 500 company for Williams-Sonoma, Pottery Barn, and West Elm, before I ever got into collections. Now I'm in collections. So I understand the whole gamut of things across the board before I went into collections. Now I see how those things impact collections, but now I see from a Sage's point of view how they impacts insurance. And Sage also has a big background in trucking for 2 decades. Go ahead with your little spiel.
Yeah, I started driving CDL when I was 20 years old. I'm 50. I still have a CDL license. I've been an owner operator. I've been a carrier. I've been a local driver, and I've been a broker agent, Landstar agent. Jesus Christ, my own brokerage for 17 years, over-dimensional freight. Like I said, I've done the same thing and now licensed in insurance. And I just see that the biggest problem I'm seeing is we had a lot of carriers come in with COVID and the rush to get into the game there. And that affected both brokerages, fraud, insurance, aspects of that. And now you're seeing it's not an instantaneous, the industry in itself is very slow moving, which is both good and bad, right? Because the faster, if this industry were to move fast, it's going into a tech industry now. So if it moves too fast, we're going to lose a lot of people.
This is
right?
what Gerald just said.
Exactly. So it's moving into a tech industry now. But if it moves too fast, we're going to lose a lot of, older school drivers that don't collect their own data, drivers that don't use their own TMSs and things like that. But it's moving that way. So it's both good and bad that it moves slow. So unfortunately, the slow aspect of it is, hey, we're now realizing the fraud is important. We're now realizing the insurance factors are important. We're now realizing the safety factors are important. Because of that change, that's kind of where we're at. So that's where now we're noticing that, and it's out in the limelight. Like it's hitting the social media that, hey, drivers are unsafe, trucks are unsafe, but we point at the non-domiciles, which, hey, that's one aspect of it, but that's not the only aspect of it.
Right.
And a lot of companies and freight brokers now and carriers and drivers and are now starting to say, oh, what's this compliance stuff? What is it? What is this insurance stuff? And why does my insurance keep going up and up and up? And, what's going on here? And they just don't have a place to go or people to do that. And that's where, like I said, I have like oversizeinsurance.com for booking appointments with me. And then we sit down and we go over this stuff and I show them, hey, this is what an underwriter is going to look at. Why is this going on? Why is this going on? How do we get this better? And that's basically how I want to handle. I can't see this. How I want to handle this.
And then also, John's also been in the industry for, I don't know, probably close to 2 decades as well. I mean, you came out of the military doing logistics readiness officer, I think is what you were, if I'm not mistaken. I may be incorrect.
That's correct. That's correct.
So John's been in this for a long time. So, the background of us seeing the evolution going from 20 years ago all the way to current and having our fingers in the pie all this time in different areas of it, give us the knowledge and give us some background and then some foresight into what's to come, and being able to help these companies be safer, more compliant, ready for the road, and being able to see a lot of these things that we couldn't see 10 years ago, even now that we can see with tracking, with ELDs, with things like that we can now put the pieces of the puzzle together. I think is all very important, and it makes the total knowledge package that we have, like we're not just coming in trying to tell somebody how to run a trucking company, but we've never been a driver. So, we've been there. We're not trying to tell a broker where their risks are when we've never been a broker,
Yeah.
or worked at a brokerage or whatever. So together, all of that, John does the fraud stuff and a lot of with stolen cargo. We had some stolen cargo with one of my clients recently that we tried to help out with, and we pointed out some weak links in that security that they had going on with their yards and everything. And that I don't think that we've even recovered that freight yet. So unfortunately, but I'm just saying it's spread across the board. It's on all aspects of this industry right now, not just in drivers and not just in trucking companies, not just in brokers or broker agents, not just in insurance or collections. It's all across the board, and we have to do a lot of vetting and a lot of background checking to make sure that the people that we're representing are true and good people, and that the information they've given us is above board and it's as accurate as possible. I mean, all we have to stand on in this industry is our reputation and our experience. And so we have to be very careful when we move forward that we know the people that we're doing the business with.
True.
What kind of resistance are you guys getting from motor carriers that you're trying to help? I mean, because when you're starting to talk to them about compliance and you're starting to talk to them about what they need to do to drop their insurance rates and whatnot, there's a lot of work involved. There's a lot of friction that's going to take place there. What kind of resistance are you getting?
Your turn. Go ahead.
There's a lot of push and pull with the internal compliance of that company. People don't want to relinquish the reins. I get it. They don't want to look like they're not important to their company or that they're not providing a service to their company when they are. But the problem is some companies are giving too much freedom to their compliance teams and allowing them to have too much say so. So then when we come in with, hey, we're working this and we're getting ready to present this to these markets, and then they're signing, affidavits of broker of record saying that this insurance company can go after these people. We're in the same markets, and it's closing us out of markets because they don't realize what they're doing. They don't have a clue what that means on the back end of things. And it's not the same as in freight brokering. If insurance brokering, when you're locked out, it's done. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically what happens is that people don't know this. Well, some of the problem is that people are a mess, right? I understand they want to be out there making money, right? Truckers want to make money, and I want them to make money. But I'll need like an hour, and so to save them money. So to them, it's hard for them to see, well, saving me money isn't as much as making money. Actually, it's better. You know what I mean? But it's so getting that information, hey, I'm going to need your loss runs. I'm going to need your IFTAs. I'm going to need your driver information. I'm going to need all this information.
You need all of that?
It's schoolwork, right? It's schoolwork. It's homework. I do homework. So trying to get that together. But it's good to have this package because when insurance finally asks for that, you just send the package over. And once it's in order, it's in order. But the biggest thing people don't know, one of the big things people don't know, is when let's say you come to me and I'm a producer, you're coming to me and I'm shopping you to various markets. Right? Like, let's say I'm just going to use names that you remember. Progressive, Geico, Cover Whale, Nirvana, all these other markets, right? Well, what happens is when I start to shop your information to those markets, I'm now locked into that company, right? Well, people don't know that, and they go to 7 different agents. Well, if somebody else went to, let's say, Nirvana or Navigators before me, I'm now locked out of that market, okay? Because somebody else threw the information in there and locked them out. So it's not like multiple producers can just go to the markets and we're all going to get different prices. We're not. Like, because if I'm shopping Navigators, because I have access to Navigators and this person does, if this person goes first, I can't go to Navigators now, unless you sign a broker of record and you relinquish it to me. So one of the things that you definitely want to do is find the most knowledgeable insurance agent that brings you the most value and ask him what markets are you going to take us to? Well, I have this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay. Those are the markets I'm going to shop for you. Well, because once I go to them, if you go to another agent that you like, of course, they're not going to be as smart and knowledgeable as I am because I'm the best in the world. But if you try just to give it a shot, they ask them what markets they would shop it to, and then say, well, it's already being shopped to these markets. Don't shop it to any of these. That's different, but they don't because they don't know this. So when you're actually looking for an insurance producer or that agent, you want to go to the most knowledgeable person that brings you the most value.
Yes,
And let
Gerald.
that person shop the market. Well, I got a question.
Gerald said
No,
most.
Trucker G was basically just echoing what you were
Yes.
saying.
Right. But I liked what he said. So most carriers don't realize a broker of record isn't just paperwork. It's market access control. Sign
Correct.
it wrong and you don't just switch brokers. You shut doors that you can't reopen. The prep work feels like homework, but it's the difference between leverage and getting locked out.
Correct. And that's
Yeah, I was a motor carrier for 4 years. I never knew that. Now, the insurance agent that I signed with, I had been with on my personal side as well. I knew he did commercial, so I always stayed with them because I had a relationship and I trusted them. And frankly, they didn't steer me wrong. We went under during COVID anyway, but it's okay. They didn't steer me wrong. I look at a lot of different insurance agents. I've spoken to a lot of different agents. No one has ever said that to me before. That when as soon as you present a potential customer to a market, you lock any other agent out of that market for that customer. I've never known that before.
Period. Right. I mean, it's not forever. You know what I'm saying? But there's a time period, and we don't need to get too deep. But that's why it's very important to find the best agent you possibly can, and then say, okay, do your thing, right? And then once I submit, I'm going to these markets. These are the markets I'm going to. Or these are the ones I have access to, whatever it is, might be 10, might be 20, might be 5, whatever. At least then, if you do want to shop, you can shop somebody else that go to different markets. Because there's no need to, at this point, if I'm shopping this one. Now, the best thing to do is go to one agent and use them. But if they're not doing the job right, like I have a friend now that her insurance agent is horrible, literally horrible. And I'm like, what are they giving you? How much, what are they doing for you? Are they showing you cab? Like I have one of my software, which is search carriers. Every one of my carriers, I am following them when they go through a scale. So what happens with me, with my carriers, and I do this for the people that I insure, if one of your trucks goes through a scale and gets an out of service, I get an email. Maybe not immediately, but as soon as it hits the FMCSA, I get an email. I then take that email and send it to the customer. I say, hey, just a heads up or FYI, your truck went through a scale house, got out of service. I have had people call me and say, what truck? What are you talking about? Holy crap. Hang on. Let me log in. And I pulled up the VIN because I don't know the driver. I just know the VIN. And when did this happen? Last week in Arizona. What did they get? I know nothing about this. My driver never told me he got an out of service and 14 violations. And I'm like, this is the stuff that if your insurance agent isn't doing things like this to make sure that they're keeping you knowledgeable about your company and what's going on, they're not giving enough value. Like, I don't just want to take your money and cover your insurance. I want to bring you more value. I need you to be smarter and better at your job so you stay in business longer. So when you grow, I grow.
And I want to talk to your drivers about not committing the same violations over and over again. If you're a habitual speeder out there, then let's look at governing your truck. If you can't govern your speed, then let's govern it for you. I mean, just whatever is going to keep you from getting more violations, because the more violations you get, the higher your safety score. And this isn't a score better, is the higher score is the better grade. That's not the case here. We want the lower score. Okay. So it's not like if you get a 97, that's an A. No, that's an F in this case. So we need it to be lower. And what can we do to keep you from, if is it preventative maintenance? Yes, there's a cost to preventative maintenance, but preventative maintenance coming at a cost is saving you from all of these violations, which makes you look like a risk to insurance and to brokers and to shippers. Okay. So we're trying to mitigate the risk here, which is going to get you a better insurance, hopefully, and ideally in the end would get you a better insurance rate or get you better loads or better paid loads if you're less of a risk to that shipper or that broker. And people don't realize that, and people are looking at these things now because it's come to the forefront a lot more recently than it ever did before. And now that we can call these things out and say it's tied to this driver is getting an infraction every week when they go out. They're the reason you're in the red, and you're getting all of your other drivers pulled in more because they're in the red, causing you to get, because you look like a risk to the FMCSA, to the DOT out there. So when they see your MC coming down the road, they're like, got to pull this one in. He's operating in the red all the time. We need to make sure. And you're getting pulled in more because your other drivers, your top 3 drivers, are causing your other ones just get pulled in. So then we have to have those hard conversations with, hey, you're in the top 3 of these 12 drivers every single week. If you're there for 3 weeks, then we're not going to dispatch you in the 4th week. And maybe if it hits your pocket a little bit, you'll start to think about not being the habitual offender that's causing the rest of the team that's doing right to get pulled in.
Yeah, I can't imagine for the life of me somebody going into a scale and getting an inspection and not reporting that immediately to their dispatcher or fleet manager. But back when I was running my dispatch service, not only did I know as soon as the second that one of my guys were getting pulled over, but I insisted that I be on speakerphone while they're speaking to the DOT officer. Because frankly, with all due respect to law enforcement, I've got no issues with law enforcement whatsoever. Most of the drivers who worked for me were African American, and I'm sorry, they tend to get harassed more. So I'm always listening to make sure that both sides are treating each other with respect, that the right information is being passed, and we have prevented violations by monitoring inspections as they're going on. Not only that, the owner of the company that I'm working for I'll be texting them while I'm on the phone saying, hey, just let you know, Joe X is at a way station here getting inspected. Here's what's going on. I can't imagine how drivers are not keeping their dispatchers informed when something happens, because it's a trickle effect, especially if someone's going to go out of service.
All the time. The last one I did was a driver went through a construction zone over 15 miles an hour speeding ticket. So that's all doubled, going through a construction zone. And that was somebody we know. That was to be completely honest. And I said, I just happened to pull him up, and he's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, you didn't know this? When did that happen? And so it happens a lot more than you think, that they'll get tickets, they'll get this stuff, and the companies don't know about it. So this is the stuff that, like I said, this is the stuff that I'm monitoring. And I think the big factor is that $200 for clean inspections. Yes. And that even if it's clean, I send it to them so that the carrier knows, hey, he did get a clean inspection. I verify that. But I think it's a big factor. It's the knowledge of the industry, and like I try to explain to be like my boss, I'm gonna eventually have him on the show with you. He basically says he tells it like this: hey, we're all in the game together, right? We're in this game together. We got to learn how to play the game. You got to learn my side, because I already know your side, but you got to learn my side. You have to learn the insurance side, the compliance side, because if you know that stuff, you're gonna beat the guy. You're gonna beat the guy next to you out, right? You're gonna know how to get the better rate. And although it might cost, a little money now for the compliance aspect, once it's in order and it's in shape, it's just maintaining it. But it's a mess right now. A lot of times it's a mess. We have 2 right now that have been audited by the DOT. Like, audits are happening more now. Like, for just being audited is now a thing. Audits are happening more. And like I said, carriers just don't seem to either know or understand how to get better insurance. And we actually did a test where we called a bunch of people. We probably called 200 carriers. And the 1 to 5 carriers didn't give a shit about compliance. They couldn't. But then they wondered why they couldn't get past 5. But then the 5 and up, you could definitely tell that they really started to care about compliance. They really understood the importance of it. And they basically said, hey, we really need to work on this, because for us to be able to grow and reinvest, rather than give that money to the insurance company, I'd rather reinvest in new equipment if I can, to grow the company. And that's some of the stuff that I like helping drivers. Like, I help liking people, or I enjoy that. But I enjoy educating people on things they didn't know and showing them so we can all be on the same page. And like I said, if your insurance agent's not doing that, then they're not doing it right, in my opinion. Because
most go ahead. Well, I was going to say most carriers are their first experience with compliance is their new entrant audit that they go through, usually somewhere between 6 and 12 months of their authority being activated. That's usually their first their first go. And I remember the statistic when I went through mine was that 90% of motor carriers usually do not pass it cleanly on the first go. They usually have to come back with additional information. They didn't bring the right stuff or whatever.
I did. I passed mine. Yeah, I did. Then I became friends with the officer. Just so you know. But that might have been, I might have worked my way in there. No, but for me, mine was 18 months because I'm up here in the boondocks. But you're right. And that first audit is basically making sure that you know what you're doing, making sure that you're going to be able to move forward. They're not really going to hit you hard in regards to shutting you down, stuff like that. But when I did mine, I was nervous. I had everything all lined up, and I did pass mine the first time because I wanted everything to be in order. So even that stuff that, hey, you're going to be, we had just had somebody get audited, and it was a mess going to the audit. Like, we helped get his stuff in order, Jen and I, before the audit, and then he's like, I don't want to go to the audit. No, you have to go to the audit. You have to go to the audit. We had to convince him that you have to go. Well, because he changed his address, and he really was at this new address. There was an office, but he didn't change it on the FMCSA. So when it came to the FMCSA, he fell into this district that was 2 hours away, right? So that cop was the one that was going to do this. So when the cop calls, he's like, hey, I'm going to meet you at your office. He's like, well, that's not my office. My office is over here now. And the cop's like, well, you didn't change it on the DOT. You didn't change it on your FMCSA filing. So now you got to come to me. So because the cop to make that decision.
We even went through and changed it on the DOT, hoping that would get him to the new. Nope, it was already there. You're already in my jurisdiction. You're already set for this inspection. You're going to be there. So you need to bring copies of all your records with you, and we want all of your trucks there too. That was a feat of
yeah, and then we did bring some trucks in, but it was one of those things that he was almost not going to go. And we're like, no, if you don't go, that's refusal. They could just, you're done. They're shutting you down.
And the question was, well, if I don't go, what are they going to do? They're just going to shut me down? They can't just stop. I said, yes, they can. They have the authority.
Yes.
They will shut you down. You will not be able to operate. You must go. He's like, well, what if I'm sick that day? I mean, then they'll have to reschedule it, right? I'm like, no, they will shut you down. Somebody better be there with the box of records.
Representative has to go. With power of attorney, a representative has to go. But these are the conversations that we're having with people, and they've got 5, 10, 20 trucks, and it's like they don't know. And the problem is that with trucking, it's very easy to get a truck, jump into the truck, jump in, and know how to find a load on DAT, but not know how to run the trucking company, not understand logistics, not understand what this is all entailed.
This goes way back to my days, even back before Tanoa. But when I used to say, hey, we have CDL schools that print out pieces of plastic that say people can drive a truck. And just because you have a piece of plastic that says you can drive a truck does not mean you know anything about being a business owner. And that's where I say you really need a week of business training behind that week of CDL training, or 2 weeks of however long the schooling is now, to tell you, do you want to be a company driver, a leased on driver, an owner operator? What are the differences? What are the pros and cons of those? And then to that, if you're an owner operator, what are you going to need to do out there as a business owner? How are you going to, what information do you need in your MCS 150? What information do you need in your binder? What do you have to have in your truck in that binder? What do you have to have in your office, your place of office binder? What information has to be there, and what order does it need to be in if somebody shows up and says, give me your binder?
Yeah, I've been through more inspections than I can count. But I'm seeing a lot of people in Washington, a lot of advocates who operate within our industry now trying to push to get that new entrant audit to take place before the authority is ever granted. Do you see any value in that?
I don't know. I think that's tough, to be honest. And I think with technology, and I think what's his face is going to jump in here if he's still here. I think with technology, you can truly present. You could do a lot of the audit or a lot of the verification stuff with technology, right? There's a lot of stuff that we could set up just with that to have the actual audit. For me, an audit is a guy coming out and looking over the paperwork manually, right? Like when I'm on YouTube, the AI does one audit, but when I ask for an actual audit, they fine tooth comb it. I usually get an appeal. But I think that we just have to have a lot more. Maybe, hey, what software are you using to keep track of your ELD? Okay, I'm using Motive, and that should be submitted, in there. Okay, what are you keeping track of what data? I just think that having the audit before could be tough, right? And I think with technology, I think we need more of that interface than actually having the audit. In my
Maybe
opinion,
a checklist that could be
Yeah.
out there of things that are going to be examined in your upcoming first audit would be helpful for new companies. But giving them an audit before they actually have authority, I think, is expecting a lot, because you don't know when you get out there, what kind of lanes and freight are you going to get. Am I going to need to add another truck, and what does that look like, and how do I add another driver, and a lot of times they're not doing pre-employment drug screens, or they're not doing their random drug screens. They don't understand that those have to be done in certain intervals. And so
I think,
I think
yeah,
good.
hang on. I think that what we do, and I'm in overdimensional freight. And one of the things overdimensional freight has is pilot vehicles. We call them escorts, not those escorts, pilot vehicles. But they're, and I, what, at one time, you didn't have to have any certification. Well, they lobbied that, and they basically said, hey, you should have to do the certification. You have to get this. And now overall, before you can run a pilot car, you have to take a course, right? You have to have a pilot car course. Either Utah is like one of the best, Colorado, and they offer this online. I just believe maybe before you actually get your authority, you should have to take a course, right?
General knowledge or something.
General knowledge course of safety, compliance, how the paperwork should be filed, how the paper, what you need for drivers.
Who are you going to for this information? Who are you delivering that information to?
Yeah, and I think that maybe you don't really need the audit as much as there should be a standard level of knowledge or course taking that. Yep, I completed my course. Like for me, for an insurance, I had to pass a test. Now every 2 years, I have to take, continuing education, right? And I have to submit that to the state. So I just believe that there should be a standard of a course, whatever it might be, so that drivers are fully knowledgeable in regards to how to keep their files, how to keep their safety paperwork, how insurance and understanding a little bit about insurance. But that, because I get drivers now that call me, and I'll be like, okay, this is the standard stuff, and it's like, do you need physical? Do you need physical, comp and collision? What's that? What? What do you mean? I mean, you don't know what comp and collision or physical damage is for your vehicle? So I got to the point that I just got into a routine when I was with the first insurance company, not this one, that I got into a routine that I would just tell them what this is. Okay, general liability is for the other person, and go over that. You're in an accident. Okay, uninsured motorist, underinsured motorist, P&P, and then we go down to, auto liability and comp
Trailer
and
interchange.
cargo insurance, so that they understood. But there was a lot of people. I don't do it. The carriers I do now, I do with 5 trucks or more. But a lot of so they kind of know. God, I hope they do. But it's just, I think that there's just a gap between, I'm jumping in this industry, I could do it. And unfortunately, it's not lawn care. It's not landscaping, right? But it's something more than that, because you're interacting with the motoring public on a daily basis for hours and hours and hours. And I just think that there should be a standard for that.
Right, and if you're doing lawn care and you misplant the flowers, it doesn't create a pile up or a bad accident out there, or somebody that's getting all kinds of violations. So, something like that's not impacting the motoring public. Anybody out there that's in a four-wheeler, that's what we call cars, four-wheelers. Anybody that's out there in a four-wheeler, they would like to know that the people that they're sharing the road with as a profession know what they're doing, and that they are being as safe as possible out there. And so I think that's a big push here.
True.
Well, as we get to the top of the hour, I want to give you guys final comments, but I got one last question for each of you, and I'll start with you, Jenny. What is the one thing that you would recommend to a motor carrier when it comes to compliance?
Having all of your trucks, your drivers, and your trailers in order. Like, I can't tell you, both companies that we have put through this have been a hassle to try. And while this truck is in the shop, and then I look at their ELD and it's moving. How is it in the shop if it's moving? Like, just having all of your ducks in a row coming to this. Like, if you have 10 trucks, you should have 10 drivers. And if you don't have 10 trailers, then why don't you have 10 trailers? Are they doing bobtail? Are they doing power only? Then that's an explanation for that. But have the reason, and have them, those are the only ones in your ELD. If somebody's gone, purge them from the system. Don't just hold them in there, because it's impacting your scores.
Cool. Sage, same question for you, but for insurance. What's the one piece of advice you'd give to somebody seeking insurance from you?
Your ELD. Pick the most. You are doing an interview. First one is your ELD. Make sure your ELD is up to date, like for the compliance thing. For insurance, pick if you're going to work with an insurance agent in trucking. You want to pick the most knowledgeable. You are interviewing them. Like I look at this as when you come to me as you are interviewing me for the position of insurance provider for your business. Okay, this is an interview. My prices shouldn't be what passes the test of the interview. My knowledge, the value that I bring, I can answer all your whatever questions. I've answered them to what you feel is appropriate. You are interviewing me for one of the most important positions for your company. Make sure you interview that person. And because they're going to give you a price, but the problem is that you just interviewed somebody, and if you base it solely on the price and you don't interview that person, it's going to be bad. Because so one of the most important things I would say is if you're picking in the insurance person, interview that person and base your decision on their knowledge, the value they bring. Are they going to be there when something goes wrong? Are they going to be there to help you if you need questions? Hey, what do? I just got into an accident. What should we be doing? Are they knowledgeable enough to answer all of those questions? And do they bring the best opportunity to make your company better? And I just don't think a lot of people look at it that way. They just say, give me the price. And they're not actually looking at, okay,
the cheapest is the most expensive way of doing something.
Absolutely. that's why you got to come to me because I bring the most value.
In honor of the builder of the pyramids, the cheapest way of doing something is the most expensive way of doing something.
Yeah, basically.
Jeff would be proud of you, Jenny. Jeff would definitely be proud. Yeah. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking time to hang out with us on the show today. I'm definitely going to be bringing you both back in the not too distant future because I'd like to see how things with this partnership of yours develops. I'd like to hear some success stories of what you guys are going through because I think it will bring home the point that drivers need to know what the heck that they're getting themselves into, especially before they jump into this business because it can be kind of crazy. You're 100% right. Folks, that's our show for today. If you have any issues, questions, concerns relating to fraud or now insurance or compliance, do me a favor. Hit me up. Email me at jcantera@vigilanttransport.com. I'll be happy to get you to the experts so that you can get the answers that you need to drive your business along, whether you are a motor carrier, a freight broker, an insurance agent, etc. If you deal with the transportation industry, you need to understand all aspects of what's going on around you. With that being said, I hope we have definitely filled your bellies along the way. Your check is sitting on the table. Make sure you tip out your server, and we will catch you next time on the Tic Toc Diner.